Hey there, I'm Emma, the financially enlightened nurse, otherwise known as Nurse Fern online. Today, we're going to be chatting about liability, otherwise known as malpractice insurance for nurses. First things first, I am not an insurance salesperson or expert, so this is definitely for information purposes only. Through engagement on social media, I've come to realize that a lot of nurses either don't talk about liability insurance or they think you shouldn't have it. There's a lot of misconceptions floating around, and there's a lot of questions about what type of insurance people need. And really, it just depends. You need to assess your own risk and see if it's something that you think you need for your practice or in your life. There are some insurance policies that we can't get away with not having. You have to have a homeowner's policy if you own a home and have a mortgage. Legally, you have to have an auto insurance policy. For nurses, malpractice insurance is optional. So it leaves a little bit of gray area and a lot of assumptions about what it does and what it doesn't do. Let's dive in and look at some of the big myths of liability insurance and some of the reasons why you might want to consider getting it, and then also how to make your own decision. So first off, what is liability insurance? Liability insurance is something that is there to protect you when you make an oops or somebody thinks you made an oops. A patient or family member can file a claim against you, the hospital, the physicians, if they think a mistake was made. It costs money, even if a claim is dismissed or settled before going to court. You might already have insurance because you were required to as a student nurse. Many schools now, I've heard, are requiring it. I honestly can't remember if I had to have it. I think I did. I remember talking about it at least. I've had some people tell me online they were discouraged by school professors from getting it. So there definitely are the two camps still happening at school. So professional liability insurance is actually pretty easy to get. A lot of companies have online applications now, and when you apply online, you qualify for immediate coverage. It's also pretty inexpensive, which makes it appealing if you are on the fence with whether you should get it or not. Policies are typically about $100 a year. And as one TikTok commenter mentioned, that's about 2 Starbucks a month, and that is worth the peace of mind to her. Many of the policies I perused online have about $1 million occurrence or up to $6 million per year. You might be wondering, what can nurses get sued for? And the list is sadly long, and you might not have done anything wrong to get sued. So according to the American Nursing Association, these are the top areas that nurses end up having claims filed over. Failure to follow accepted standards of care. Failure to use medical equipment responsibly and correctly. Failure to assess and monitor patient health. Failure to document and communicate patient health status, and failure to act in the interests of your patient as a patient advocate. All sound like things that I care deeply about when I'm at the bedside caring for a patient. But the ANA and a few other online sources also highlight that sometimes there are things and changes in hospital administration that make those parts of our job harder. Staffing shortages, things like the current pandemic, budget cuts, having enough support staff there to help you, these all affect how much care and attention we are able to give our patients. So some of these things, although we may be doing the best we can while we're on the job, seem like we have outside influences that might be affecting how well we're able to do that. So this is my favorite part because I'm gonna go through all the myths, well, some of the myths surrounding nurse liability insurance and why some of them necessarily aren't true and why not. I think this is really important because for the most part, when I post a video about liability insurance or I bring it up, I will see these in the comments, and I thought it was just things I was getting, but then when I started doing this research online, I saw that a lot of other people were encountering these common misconceptions and concerns, because really that's what it is. They are roadblocks that are keeping you potentially from getting liability insurance. You may not just know that some of the things that you thought were always truths about insurance coverage or not having insurance coverage really have simple explanations. So let's run through some of these common ones. I've compiled things that people said to me in comments, and then also some other ones that I found online that as soon as I saw them, I went, oh my gosh, I've heard that before. The first liability insurance myth is that only physicians get sued for malpractice, and that's not true. Physicians do get sued for malpractice, but often what happens when a patient or a family member files a claim, they list everybody involved. Also, increasingly, nurses have fought to be seen as autonomous, doing our own assessments and medical decision making, which comes with this added responsibility that we need to be able to stand up and explain why we did the things we did. Myth number 2, you're more likely to get sued or seen as being guilty if you carry liability insurance. And the best thing is that legally, nobody can know what your liability insurance status is until a claim has been filed and discovery is happening. It's not public information unless someone has told you up front or you told someone that you have insurance. Nobody's gonna know. Also, since a lot of people don't talk about whether they have insurance or not, I feel like that's a reason that maybe a lot of nurses might not have it. It's because it's just not something we talk about. It's kind of like the taboo of money. If it doesn't come up in conversation normally, or it's something you do but you don't talk about, the information isn't passing on to people who might be able to use it. Even if you don't have liability insurance, you're already listed on a claim. So a plaintiff is going to look at what your role in the incident was, and even though you don't have this insurance coverage to go after to bolster what they would be able to get monetary-wise, they might see what your role is and keep you on that claim against the hospital, the physician, and you. Number 3, you can get sued only if you make a mistake. Sadly, this isn't true. You can get sued if there is a perceived error by patient or family, and you are gonna have to defend yourself. A patient can sue if they believe a mistake was made or they suffered damages of some kind. Whether or not you are actually found at fault for what the patient is claiming, you are gonna incur legal expenses for your defense. Oh my gosh, this one's my favorite. I don't even know what number it is, but it is the all-time one that is listed for why you don't need your own insurance. That your hospital will protect you. Here are some cold, hard truths about hospital liability protection. I can probably guarantee that you've never asked for a copy. You really don't know what they're gonna cover probably, or what they won't cover. A hospital's policy was purchased by the hospital, so first and foremost, that policy is going to act in the hospital's interest. They have their own liability claim limit. Whatever amount of money they have to cover something might not actually cover all of the costs you would incur, even if they chose to cover you. During a group lawsuit, you might still be shouldering the expenses for your own defense, even though there is an all-encompassing employee policy in effect. The advantages of having your own liability insurance coverage, you are going to be individually represented. As soon as you find out a claim is made against you, you call up your insurance provider, you let them know what's going on. It's just like filing an auto insurance claim. You'll get a claim number. The ball is gonna start rolling on your defense and finding out the information that needs to be gathered. So here's some of the things that your liability policy may cover that your hospital one probably doesn't. Coverage for assault, first aid expenses, violations of the HIPAA Accountability Act, libel or slander, depositions, property damage, and license protection benefits. So let's talk about some numbers and cost here. It's no secret, nurse liability insurance is pretty inexpensive. It's about $100 a month, which might make you wonder, am I ever gonna use this? Typically, insurance that you use a lot costs more money. So some nurses will argue that it is not worth it. They are willing to take that risk, that it is a low incident of having a claim filed against you, and they're willing to take that chance. They're willing to play that numbers game that they don't think somebody is going to actually file a claim against them, so they don't think it's worth that $100 a year to make sure they have added protection. I looked up some of the numbers to see what the chance really was. There's only 2 major studies I could find. One of them is by one of the primary insurance groups, and the other is from a national database which spoke distinctly to actual claims paid. So here's some of the numbers. So an article on the ANA website cites the National Practitioner Database, which tracks these numbers for claims filed and payouts. The ANA cites a number from the National Practitioner Database that between 1990 and 2001, only 2,311 nurses made malpractice claim payouts. Now, what this doesn't take into account is all of the money that possibly had to be paid by nurses for their defense. The NSO report is more recent, covers more information on actually claims filed and payouts, including how much it costs to defend a nurse. What I could find in their graphic areas was that it looks like they pay about 8 to 10 grand per complaint of nurse. The big thing that both articles and studies cited, claims against nurses are on the rise. This isn't going anywhere. They are increasing. But if you're trying to figure out if this is right for you, keep in mind that even though back in the 90s, the numbers didn't seem that big, every year the number of claims against nurses is going up. Over the course of your career, the chances of you getting sued is probably higher. The big thing here is that you need to be a wise consumer of your insurance products, your level of risk, what you need to feel comfortable and confident at work doing your job and providing care to your patients. Is it going to make you feel more comfortable knowing that you pay a small amount of money a month to make sure you are protected in case you are one of those few that have a claim filed against you? Or are you going to decide that it's worth the risk and you don't really want to pay the money for a policy? That is a personal decision. Also, liability insurance covers you while you are covered during your policy time period. If you aren't insured right now and you have a complaint or a claim against you, it's not retroactive. This is something that you have to decide if you need it, if it's worth it. And once something happens and you don't have it, you don't get to go back in time. Since I'm the personal finance nerd and money coach, I gotta bring it home to personal finance. Your insurance coverage matters because if you don't have a policy to cover you and help take the heat away monetarily, so covering your legal expenses and potential payouts, that money is coming from you. It will come from whatever they can get it from. That includes any of your assets pretty much. Any housing you have, savings, current and future earnings, they can be taken to pay out a suit. Is that risk worth it to you? When you're looking at malpractice policies, print them out, read them, highlight things, make sure you know what it covers. If you have questions, call and ask them. That is the job of the insurance company. Also, several of the insurance websites have case studies that explain common scenarios in nursing and what could get you in trouble and what they do to help, and moving forward how you can mitigate and reduce your risk of having a legal action. Okay, I cannot leave you today without telling you a story about a feisty commenter that I had on TikTok. If you don't follow me on TikTok, make sure to follow me. I'll drop my info down below because I make fun videos and I release them every day. But this commenter made a note on a video that I had about this subject, liability insurance, where I basically explained why you shouldn't rely on your employer. They might decide not to cover you because that's the truth. But they cited the statistics and the information that ANA talked about and the low levels of claims and how I was giving misinformation and how patients and family won't sue nurses because they know we're doing our best. And unfortunately, no matter how much I want to believe in humanity and that nursing is the most trusted profession, I hope my patients know that how deeply I care for them. I am just not willing to risk somebody not understand that those are my intentions and that I do everything to the utmost standards at work. I just honestly can't believe that that's not something I'm willing to rely on. There are feisty people that do make you think about things, which is good. And it made me go look up this information and include it in this video, but they also never did confirm what they were actually citing. Much like your instructors, fellow nurses, all the myths we talked about, do your own research, talk to sources, look at case studies, make your own decision for what's right for you, because I am just bringing the information here. I am not bringing you misinformation, but I am trying to lay it out for you so that you can make your own informed decision. All right, so I know this was a heftier topic. Please feel free to drop comments below. You can also message me or comment on any of my videos on TikTok and I will respond. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it, and if you haven't had a chance yet, please subscribe.